Well, Piper Sandler saying in a new note that Hurricane Milton could significantly change the insurance market. The Category 4 storm reaching parts of Florida earlier today. So what does this mean for insurance? For more, we've got the author of that note, Paul Newsome, managing director over at Piper Sandler. Paul, it's great to speak with you. So talk to me about your base case here. What are you anticipating for the insurance market after this hurricane?
Well, I'm mostly anticipating a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what the losses will be. They could be the biggest we've ever seen, theoretically. That could have wide-ranging changing effects on the industry, from pricing, terms and conditions, how the things are regulated. So I think right now we just don't know, and won't know for at least a couple of days how important this will be.
Do you believe, Paul, this could lead to kind of broader, I mean, it's possible, depending on the kind of storm we find ourselves dealing with here, could it lead to kind of longer-term structural changes?
It could. Most likely first in the reinsurance markets, which are critical to the Florida market in particular, but also just to how we think about home insurance and other property insurance and who has to take the risk and how it's spread around the world. So absolutely. This could be changing in a very different environment after next week.
So talk to me about what it would take for some of these insurance stocks to start to recover a little bit, Paul, moving forward here. Is it a month from now, 2 months from now? What is the catalyst for that?
Well, they're already starting to recover a little bit, because I think the peak fear was probably yesterday. And the industry is designed to handle a large event and spread the losses globally. But the real reduction in uncertainty will happen probably a couple of weeks from now. You first have the storm strike, you'll be able to visually see what the losses are. It usually takes a week or two for the insurers to come out with what they think the losses are per company. And that's usually the trigger for when the stocks rebound, when the uncertainty goes away.
And Paul, you do cover some Florida specialists as well, right? So walk me through some of those names and how vulnerable they are here.
The two I cover are Heritage Insurance and Universal Insurance. Both of them have very large positions in Florida, but some diversification as well. They rely heavily upon reinsurance. They buy an enormous amount, something like 30+% of your premium in Florida will go to reinsurance costs. They'll have a limit loss, most likely, meaning that the full deduction on the reinsurance. And then with our fingers crossed, hopefully the damage is not that bad and it goes through the top. And that's essentially the limit for the losses that they will take. And it all get pushed out to the reinsurers on a global basis.
Paul, I'm curious, are there any areas in Florida that are already experiencing just record levels of insurance costs that are making it unattainable for residents in those areas?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find a place in Florida that isn't. I think my companies are telling me that they've raised rates cumulatively the last 3 years about 100%. So, and I don't think there's any exceptions in Florida. It is a very unusual and highly stressed market with an enormous amount of rate increases, in part due to these storms that just don't seem to end. But there are other things in Florida that have made it, like litigation, a very expensive state to buy home insurance in, or really any property insurance.
Talk to me, Paul, just long term, what you think the insurance market looks like in Florida, because we've all seen the same headlines, the reports, Paul, what's described as sort of this exodus of big insurers from the state.
Yeah, I don't think the big insurers are coming back anytime soon. I think Florida will be left with specialists and who are heavily reliant on the reinsurance market. My guess is there'll be fewer of those over time. I think you'll have some concentration of the business in Florida. And I think it will be ultimately specialists in Florida who continue to dominate the market, if not more so. The big question is what happens underneath with the recent tort reform and potentially structural changes that hopefully help to reduce overall costs. That's a question mark that's particularly for Florida. It's a very unusual market.
It certainly is, Paul, and it's something that, I mean, my whole family is from Florida. They're in the area. I'm looking at our group chat right now on my screen and taking a look at their insurance costs, and the numbers are, I'm glad that I'm not a homeowner. Let's just leave it at that. But I'm curious about kind of the long-term impact of these extreme weather events, which you kind of just touched on. But if we keep having to rebuild, reinsure, go out to insurance companies to rebuild over and over and over again, where does that leave us long term? Like, how bad could this get?
Well, first of all, hopefully your family is all safe. But this is ultimately a cost plus industry, and so as the storms continue to hit and become increasingly costly, you're just going to have increased costs that get pressed down to the consumer. There's really nothing you can do about that, other than try to make some structural changes to reduce litigation, make the market more efficient. But it's just always going to be a costly state to buy home insurance. And if you think that you're going to see more and more of these storms, that unfortunately just means you're going to pay more in costs over time.